We're here back again for another video. Specifically, we're tackling another director and their sort of filmography here. According to the title of the video, you probably already know what it is. It's David Lynch. He's a very prolific filmmaker who's made a good handful of really solid films, a lot of short films, and then even a TV series or two. And we're here specifically to talk about his 10 sort of main uh, films, theatrical releases, what have you. So, yeah, Peter, do you have any sort of general takes about this myth, this legend of a man?
I mean, he's been one of my favorite American directors for sure. Just a really creative guy, and a incredibly unique and singular vision. There's not many who are making movies or art the way he is, and it was a shame that we lost him last year, because I would have loved to get even more out of him.
Yeah,
But the filmography that he's left us with is definitely worth talking about even now. So glad to get into it.
yeah, for sure. For me, I love this dude as like an artist, as like a personality, and just like as a person. Like he's very
Mm.
unique. If you've never heard him talk about like anything,
Anything.
like it's just like
Hmm.
it's so unique and like I don't know, sort of like humbling to know that like a dude as sort of strange but also familiar and nice as him is in sort of this position of like a great prolific career. And
Hmm.
what I like sort of most about him is his sort of uh, not so trying to be heavy handed on for the interpretation of his films, being like trying to lord dump and explain literally
Hmm.
everything about him. He's very against all that and very pro everybody trying to get their own positions and thoughts and feelings uniquely across each of his films. And I also really like his sort of like messaging about the creative process of these stories and stuff, where everything is like it starts from an idea. And I've like
Hmm.
just today I watched him explain it like three different times. It's like sort of the same basic overview explanation thing, just on like different interviews. They all ask the same goddamn questions, or he just like goes over it again and again because he really emphasizes it, like the idea that anybody can get these sorts of ideas, and it's just a matter of thinking of them consciously and subconsciously and letting it sort of naturally grow and evolve. And the idea of like getting ideas through daydreaming, like as
Hmm.
a person who has fictional things going on in my head myself, not to compare myself too heavily to this dude. Obviously, he's a little bit more prolific than myself, but just to like for me to know that somebody out there with as big of a career that he led, to have that sort of similar mind space where I was also a big daydreamer, and I got a lot of my uh, more creative ideas from zoning out in school, for instance, and like a lot of moments of daydreaming allowed for me to sort of just naturally get the idea. So I think it's just cool, and for me personally, just to know that out there's a cool dude who also went through that a little bit, and it worked out very well for him. As we'll get into. So, should we start with the rankings of his films? I forget if you started the last one or if I did for
I
our.
don't recall, but I think we probably are going to end with the same one as our bottom, our number 10. And
Mhm.
for me, that would be Dune.
Hmm. Yeah, so that's like the most common take. And
Hmm.
upon like if I did not go back and rewatch any of these films recently, I
Hmm.
would actually have that same take. And again, I would imagine most people out there, if they were to see all 10 of these films, they would also place that at the very bottom. I understand why, but I'm also having a little bit of a hot take here right off
Oh
the bat.
boy.
And my least favorite David Lynch film is actually Inland Empire.
Okay. Okay. I can see it. But then, all right, so what's your ninth? What's your
It's Dune.
ninth
It's
then?
Dune.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
talk about it.
Okay.
Let's
Okay.
talk about this. This is the movie. This is the movie, man. Oh
This
my
is a
goodness.
movie. It is an unfortunate tragedy to some extent. This movie is his biggest kind of blockbuster that he ever directed. He kind of got the keys to the kingdom relatively early when he burst onto the scene with Eraserhead, and it got people kind of turning their heads. And then he continued to do interesting stuff with the Elephant Man. And then, unfortunately, he was given the keys to this massive media empire that is Dune and all of the expectations that come with it. And I think he said it himself. This is one of his least favorite movies, his least favorite movie to make specifically. And I understand why. It definitely seems like it was unfortunately butchered through either the production process or just too many cooks in the kitchen, too many people trying to force their version of what Dune should be onto a very particular artist such as David Lynch. And so in all of those ways, it's just kind of a messy movie. It's a little campy and very early 80s sci-fi way, but I think things just don't really gel super well together. I like the design and the world and some of the performances, but unfortunately the rest of it is just really kind of hacked together and not super coherent.
Yes,
So
like visually, that's probably the strongest part of it. Like, it's nice, the sets are nice, the costumes are nice. But yeah, it's like you said, it's super messy. But like, to me, it's just like a lot of fun in a way. Like, this is probably my favorite, like, bad film, or like the only film that
I do like the movie.
Yeah, no, yeah, which is something to point out because that's a big difference there. Like, it's definitely not good, but I like it a lot. You know what I mean? We've both read the novel, and we both, at this point, the Denis Villeneuve films have come out, and that was 2 films adapting the one book. This one, you just get it all in one story, and the first half very confusing, second half very rushed. You get like the overly narrated segments to like explain stuff from the books really quickly. You get like the other stuff you don't really see super often is the whole, like, in books and novels, characters think in their heads, and then usually when that translates to film, they just make the characters speak because it's sort of awkward to have the characters just, you hear their voice, but they're not moving, they're not doing anything. It's like more of a passive, less interesting thing. So in this film, you see characters think, which you don't actually see super often in films. They actually just don't move their mouths, they're thinking. And so it's awkward. And it contributes to that sort of unorganized mess of like, this is
an interesting aspect of David Lynch's films. Is he does, and his art in general, he is fairly quick to allow for narration in some way. I think it is less successful in Dune because it is just kind of
less artistic in
lines
the perhaps ways he explores that.
Exactly.
In other
it's
films,
much more.
In this, it feels like they're trying very literally to bring the book to life without perhaps more careful consideration and group planning around that.
But it was one of his earlier projects, and it burned him bad. He said he'd never do anything like this ever again, and he didn't. So
it was the one he had the least control over. So it makes sense. But I like a lot of the things about it. I love the Harkonnens and how just sort of goofy they are. Like when the fucking Baron or whatever is like floating
Whenever
around.
He's floating around.
Like, I love when like Sting comes out of the steam bath and like his metallic underwear and is just like flexing and all wet and shit. It's like, this is awesome. This is so fucking sick.
It is a really fun movie to watch. Even though it is a little messy. There's definitely still value to be found here. So, as you know, the bottom of the list for
and the
near
3D
the bottom
effects
of
like the shields or whatever, that was awesome.
Yes. One of the earliest CGI elements in any movie.
Oh, really?
Are
awesome. This film is historical.
Square shields. It is. No doubt about it.
No, yeah, but it makes sense. Again, probably pretty much almost everybody on the planet, if they had to make it top 10 David Lynch film ranks, this would be on the very bottom.
Pretty low, yeah.
Understandable.
That was your 9th, though, so not entirely understandable. But, I do get the Inland Empire slander, although for my 9th, I have The Straight Story.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And then my 8th is Inland Empire.
Okay.
So
Let's talk about Inland Empire a bit, I
yeah,
guess.
I'm interested to hear your take on it, considering you've watched it more recently. I
Um,
remember watching it last year, and
mhm.
it is one of his weirdest movies.
It's
Maybe the
wild for
most
sure.
uncomfortable to watch in general, just because of how it's a long movie. It's
Everything's very
extremely
close up.
disjointed and surreal. It's all shot on digital, I believe, and
It's like on
this
a
kind of
camcorder,
grain
yeah.
to it. Yeah, and it's a really strange one. Probably his least accessible movie, maybe.
100%. It's 3 hours long. It's
Yeah.
it's shot on like an old camcorder, so it looks, I don't know, sort of like an indie film, and then like everything is super close up. Everything is super abstract, almost
Hmm.
from like start to finish. And like for me, the biggest detriment of that is how far it leans into the abstractness. Like for
Hmm.
me, I'm completely cool with where he goes in other films because at least I have some sort of tangibility to latch onto.
Hmm.
So that by the point it gets to, oh, we're going wild and weird with this now, like I'm there. I've
Hmm.
already been ported alongside the film and I'm completely cool with it evolving. But for this, it's already there and it remains there for 3 hours. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
like
I do get it.
it could be the coolest story ever made. I have no idea because I have no idea what's going on. You know what
Hmm.
I mean? Like it is, it's got infinite levels of interpretability, I guess, but I just don't feel strongly encouraged to take the plunge and start picking apart every little thing of it. It's
Hmm.
probably criticizing Hollywood in perhaps similar ways some of his other films have.
Yeah, he likes to do that.
Yeah, it's probably doing something like that as like one of the main things. It's probably doing other things. It's 3 hours long. Hopefully it's doing other things, but I don't really know. You know what I mean? So I mean, I don't know. Surely you got something a little bit more positive out of this though, right?
Yes, but I do understand it. Like I said, this is his like maybe the most uncomfortable watch I've had from him, in due part to
Yeah.
the length, and then also just while other movies of his are equally surreal and disjointed, more I think this one in particular lacks the polish that something like a Mulholland Drive or even a Lost Highway has,
Hmm.
where when those movies get weird, surreal, and kind of dreamlike, it's a little easier to engage with. It's a little more comfortable to sit in those kind of surreal kind of mindsets. But with this one, it never feels grounded. The kind of Laura Dern's character, very strange. Really, no, there's not a lot of concrete information you get from her, although you don't normally get that from any of the protagonists. But this one specifically feels very kind of strange, and there's a lot of duplicates and doppelgangers, which is a common
He's
theme
like going
throughout
through
all of his
time
work.
almost, viewing her
Yeah,
past self or
yeah,
future self or
it's a
whatever.
really
It's
weird
it's it's
one.
got the Christopher Nolan style of being out of order.
It
Everything's
does,
out of
yes.
time, which sort of coincides with like the rabbits short film, which it's sort of interesting because
Yes.
I went through those a little bit side by side because in this film it shows footage that looks like it's from his short film Rabbits,
Right.
but it's actually a
Hmm.
remake of it and just
Okay.
like specific
Because I was
scenes
confused about
cut
that.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's it's
He got
it's
to do.
weird for sure. I think the short film Rabbits is about like family trauma and like people not the family not fully communicating with each other because they're all like saying sort of the like different
Hmm.
versions of what's supposed to be the same story and they're using
Talking
like different
around
times for
things.
it as like
Hmm.
the clock behind them is burning. I don't know how it relates to this film at all, literally. Like I have no idea. You know what I
It is a
mean?
weird one. I think Inland Empire
I was cool
feels
with it
almost like
watching
his.
it for the first time because I was like, oh shit, what the fuck is happening? This is like weird and it's strangely like disturbing that the rabbit segment in Inland Empire because it's just so out of nowhere and it's just
Hmm.
it's very unique because it looks like a miniature set, but I think it's people in costumes.
Hmm.
So it just creates like a super weird vibe, and it revisits them maybe like 3 times in the film across like maybe like an hour
Hmm.
separated each. It's just super odd,
Yeah,
which is
this
this
is
film in general.
maybe his most self-indulgent movie to some extent, where it seems very much like almost like a passion project for him.
Hmm.
Where, from what I can tell, he was interested in filming digital and use the camcorder just to kind of shoot a ton of different, disjointed, no plan together scenes, and then kind of patch that together in the editing room, which makes it very experimental in that way, which
Hmm.
I think is why it's probably his most hard to get into, least accessible, just because for an experimental film from David Lynch, it means something more than you might normally get.
Bro, he
Um,
said the Shrek story was his most experimental film, but it was actually this because he
uh,
was
it might
joking,
be,
sort of.
but yeah, I think the reason why I like this one more is just because than something like Dune or for me the Straight Story is because I like that weirder aspect to Lynch in general. I just think for the most part I like when he's weird, and even
Yeah.
if it is an uncomfortable watch, I still value the sense of unease or mystery that he puts me through and makes me think of and deal with the random shit that
Yeah.
he can film.
Yeah. And
It's
don't get me
this is
wrong.
one of his scarier ones too.
No, yeah.
There's like
No,
there's
yeah,
some
it's
weird,
weird and
really
creepy.
unsettling moments. He's great at building tension and using soundtracks and every aspect of film construction
Yeah.
to kind of create these really tense moments in this one, and super unsettling.
Yeah. Some of his short films are pretty good at that, but I'll get at that near the
Hmm.
end. But just to not confuse you, I'm cool with being uncomfortable or like a film making me feel
Yes. Yeah.
uncomfortable. I just need a reason to be there. If I'm
Hmm.
just let into that. I mean, for one, I may not even feel that uncomfortable. I mean, like probably the first time I was a little bit disturbed, but then second time around, I was just circling back and forth into like, why am I
Hmm.
watching this? I mean, I'm watching this for the show, the YouTube thing, because I have to. But it's a matter of like, I feel like a good chunk of the middle is unnecessary or could have been cut out. I don't know. I don't
Hmm.
know.
Maybe
There,
indulgent.
there's still a decent amount of interesting things going on with it though, to the point where I think it's legitimately people can get all sorts of ranges of emotions from it, from how I feel to even lower. People fucking can despise it, and then people between me and you, and even higher. Maybe it's a life changing experience to many. I think it, at the very least, invites that range of experiences from different people, and perhaps that's its strongest attribute. You know. Meanwhile, Dune, pretty much everybody's going to feel like, yeah, this is campy, fun, sort of not very good, silly. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like this is just a bigger array of thoughts and feelings people all across the globe can have differently. Because the experience for this, like each individual person, is going to be very different.
Yes, absolutely.
In summary, but yeah, that was your number 8,
8. Mhm.
or or what?
So your number 8 is
Oh, I'm saying mine. Okay, my number 8 is Wild at Heart.
really
Whoa, yes,
okay.
sir. But since that was
And your
not on your
7?
board yet, I have to say my
No,
next one,
not
which
yet.
is Fire Walk with Me, which is the Twin Peaks movie.
Okay. My 7 is Wild at Heart.
Ooh,
So pretty similar
ooh.
position here. Um, I I like this one. It's very campy in
Hmm.
that kind of uh, early era of his film. Um, Still plenty of like those weird surreal moments out of Lynch, but this one is definitely carried by the lead kind of roles from Nick Cage and Laura Dern. There's also obviously Willem Dafoe has an iconic role in this one. Such a good, weird fucking character. And then uh, I remember really liking the mother character and her relationship with the hitman that she sends after him.
Hmm.
Um, Definitely a kind of weird off kilter romance in this one, but I like the ending a lot. It's very
The ending's great.
strange, and it's very open to interpretation as to, is this a happy ending? Is this a depressing ending? How should you take this? I think in general, Lynch likes to sandwich darkness and corruption with a core that is hopeful and optimistic.
Mhm.
I still think that is the case here. As much
Yeah.
as the world is, wild around them,
The world is literally out to get them over their
yeah,
wholesome love
over their
stuff going
love.
on.
Yeah, I think they still do a good job of keeping that center of optimism and genuineness, which makes this a pretty fun movie to watch.
No, yeah, I feel like pretty much the exact same. I really don't have much to say about this movie. I was literally just going to bring up the same thing you did about how he's always sort of negative, and then he has like this positive sort of center, and then by the end, it sort of wraps up and becomes that. And this film is sort of like the perfect example of that idea that he explores in a lot of films in his. This one is quite fun. Again, the leads, if you like Nick Cage movies, this is a solid one. He's doing like I don't know, like a
Very
tough guy
big
voice the whole
performance. Yeah,
time.
yeah, kind of like a Elvis-y
Yeah,
character,
yeah,
rock and roller.
yeah. Which David Lynch definitely likes that sort of
Yes,
archetype. With
he's
he's got
always
like a Twin
had.
Peaks dude who's like that in the what's the other Lost Highway? There's a dude sort of like that, at least in terms of looks. I don't know if in the voice, but yeah,
He's always got a good ear for soundtracks. I think I like this one a lot. And it helps kind of bolster the screenplay and the writing. I like the writing in this one a lot.
Mhm.
Specifically, there's some great lines. A lot of them from, you know, Willem Dafoe's character. What's his name? Bobby Peru. What an insane. It's a lot of that kind of shit. It reminds me to some extent of like a Pynchon type novel, such as like an Inherent Vice, or more recently, One Battle After Another. But
wacky
like
character
that
names.
weird kind of tripped out. It feels like an LA movie, but it's not really. Where it's like kind of like a Big Lebowski or like a Under the Silver Lake. Similar themes as in all of his stuff, but yeah, this one I think it has not the least to grab onto, but this is just, like a standard good time
Yeah.
with David Lynch.
Mhm.
Nothing too much more to talk about though.
No, no, not really. I like the transition where Laura Dern is dancing on the bed, and then it transitions to the dance floor of them
Yes.
dancing. That's fun. That
There
was
are some
neat.
really cool transitions, and that final the gore of that death with the shotgun is kind of surprising and shocking, and honestly just stood out to me. I'll always remember that. But
Actual.
that was my seventh, and so up to my sixth is what you just talked about, Twin Peaks: Fire Walk with Me.
Okay. Makes sense.
It's a good movie. Definitely fits really well into the larger Twin Peaks universe. So it's kind of hard to discuss it without, talking about the entire show, which I'm sure we will at some point. There's so much to dive into.
Yeah.
But as a movie, it's like a kind of dark, maybe even more dark version of Blue Velvet, where obviously
Yeah.
Twin Peaks was definitely inspired by Blue Velvet and the themes that he's kind of engaging with, corruption of suburbs and kind of the seedy underbelly to everyday life. But with Twin Peaks, it is such a fun kind of campy universe in the actual town of Twin Peaks. But then with the movie, it's definitely more cold, more sober. It's less levity in general, just because there's really no Dale Cooper. You're mostly dealing with the events before that and dealing with Cheryl Lee and Laura Palmer's kind of last few days alive, and then also dealing with this weird segment with like an evil version of Twin Peaks. I forget what the town is, but you start with like a different FBI agent
Dear
who's
Meadow. I
investigating.
was just
Yeah,
had the thing pulled up.
yeah, Twin Peaks,
Agent
and then Deer
Desmond.
Meadow, which is like the bad version. There's
Yeah.
like there's
Evil
another
Twin
serial
Peaks.
killer around that they're trying to investigate, and they're just like very kind of obvious comparisons to the original Twin Peaks show, and then kind of no one is as nice or as engaged as the original cast or Dale Cooper, but
Hmm.
there is an interesting air to this movie that releasing it as a theatrical film was an interesting choice. I don't think it was particularly well received when it released.
Yeah,
Understandable
people didn't like it
because
that much.
Twin Peaks was already kind of on the decrease of popularity because season 2 was less well received.
Mm.
David Lynch was kind of bowing out at that time, but wanted to give it at least one more good attempt, and that was this movie, which I think in hindsight did everything that he wanted to do. It was very successful at kind of creating an interesting or a more fleshed out version of Laura. I really like the dynamic she has with her dad, and Ray Wise is excellent as Leland. That dinner scene is incredible and very tense, uncomfortable. And yeah, Sheryl Lee does a great job with much more of a direct screen presence as Laura Palmer. So a lot to like with this one. It does feel like I don't know if I would ever watch it without having watched Twin Peaks. It feels kind of like you need to. I understand that there are people who will say that you don't have to, but
Yeah.
there is a lot that
There's a
you're
lot
going to
you're
be
missing out
missing.
on.
Yeah. So in that way, it's hard to rate it any higher because of how much there is to delve into with the Twin Peaks universe.
Hmm. Yeah, we'll probably talk more about Twin Peaks as a whole someday in the future because, like you said, there's a lot to poke in at that. And I've also heard people say, "Oh, you could probably just watch it and get like a unique experience out of it." And like maybe, like I guess technically, but you can also get like a unique experience by watching fucking the Lord of the
Any
Rings,
of
the
his
Two
other
Towers, and
stuff.
not watching
Yeah.
the ones that come before or after it. So like, I mean, I guess you'll
Yeah.
get a unique experience. You'll get more out of this comparatively to just watching the Two Towers from Lord of the Rings only. But yeah, I don't know. You get David Bowie in this film for like 5 minutes.
Hmm.
He's in like an office and then he dies or something. Yeah,
That
I
is
didn't
a
rewatch this
really
film.
strange
Yeah,
one.
it was interesting for sure. His moment there, but I think there was more scenes with him. They would just cut it out of the movie or
Yeah,
something.
recuts. I think there's also, some element of studio intervention with here, considering that the second season of Twin Peaks was also kind of heavy-handed with studio interference. So,
Hmm.
you know, I guess this was the closest thing that he did to returning to a Dune-like production schedule.
State.
But I think
That
this
sucks.
one is definitely more successful on his part.
Yeah.
I think he told the story that he wanted to, and regardless of how it was received, I think it fits very well in with the rest of his filmography.
No, yeah, for sure. Like as a companion piece to Twin Peaks, it's solid. Like I couldn't imagine watching this on its own or even the first two seasons on its own without this, or
Hmm.
like jumping into the return without seeing this movie. You know what I mean? Because I think it does add a lot to uh, that world and the circumstances of just sort of everything that's going on. And yeah, like again on its own, I'm just watch it. Just watch the show. Just watch the two seasons of the show, then the movie, and then the return. It's epic, the whole thing.
It
Um,
is.
so it's very dark, and it's in perhaps that way not necessarily for everybody, but I think it's a solid film in his filmography, and for me, it ranks somewhere near the middle. I guess for both of us, it's sort of in the middle there.
Hmm. Number 6 to be precise, which leads you to your number something?
My
5?
number 6,
6.
which for me, I have the straight story.
Okay, so, and honestly, these are all like rated the same for me. Like,
Yeah, these
I
are all
don't
very
think I
close.
have. Dune is maybe the lowest rated I have for any of his stuff, and the rest is just, sevens or higher.
Hmm.
There's
Yeah,
a lot of good
there's a
shit
big
here.
difference.
So, as much as I, maybe have straight story much lower as a 9, I still do really enjoy this one. Very strange considering how accessible it is. This is like the
Considering who
most
it's coming
accessible
from
Lynch.
and like the other stuff
Yeah,
he's made up until this point and after.
exactly. So it's weird that it's not weird. There are still
Exactly.
elements of Lynch's style that you can definitely tell. Similar themes, similar actors. I really liked Sissy Spacek's kind of role here. She did really good, I thought. And obviously, the rest of the movie is just an old man on a tractor, and it's like, what are we doing? Is this a Disney film? Like, how did this come
It
to
is.
be?
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
It
it's
literally is,
very
bro. It's inspired by the Odyssey. Remember when we were talking about
yes,
how
yeah.
literally every journey ever is inspired by the Odyssey? This
Mm-hmm,
one is
mm-hmm.
because it's
This
just
one
a
is
dude on a
too.
journey, set piece after set piece, person
Yep.
where the set pieces are people, where he's just going over sort of moral lessons he's imposing or not imposing, but like helping
Imparting
them
on.
reach,
Mm-hmm,
imparting. That's the
mm-hmm.
right I word. And I think it's just a very nice film overall. Like that's the main takeaway because it's just again it's so different and like I saw this film for the first time somewhat early into my film watching career, and so when I was seeing this alongside a bunch of other famous, well received films, I remember not really thinking very highly of this. I was just kind of like, "What's going on? Why do people 4.2 out of 5 on Letterboxd? Come on, guys, what are we doing? This is obviously a 5 out of 10 status type situation." So I've since reformed um, since that point in time and that who I was at that time, and I got a lot more of a positive experience out of it this time. I think it's like the more you think about the plot, the sort of dumber it is because like
Yes, it's
he
very
he literally
simple.
gets on a bus to like go back to town and get like gas or fix his thing or something, and it's like, couldn't you just take a bus from where you're at to where your brother's at, and then like
Yeah, the
but like
first
whatever.
act
It's
is
way cooler
essentially
that
just
he's
like
on
setting up reasons why he can't, so like why he
yeah,
has
yeah,
to
or like
bring
trying to.
the entire fucking
He
thing
doesn't
with
have a
him.
license. His
It's
daughter
all
also
just
cannot drive. So
yeah. So it's kind of a funny setup for a hero's journey, so to say. But there's still a lot of heart, and that's really what you're getting out of this one is just sort of a genuineness that is more abstracted usually when you're going into a Lynch film. This is definitely the most straightforward. It is the most like probably genuinely heartfelt movie that he's made,
yeah,
and just how blatant it is about it. But yeah, as much as I like it and appreciate the themes it's going for, I do think it's just a little boring. Like I said, I like when Lynch is a little weirder, a
sure.
little more abstract, surreal, when he's in his, you know, his TM bag, trying to get me to, transcend. And this is just not that. I can definitely appreciate why people really love it. It is very friendly and warm and inviting,
It's very nice.
but you know, just not my personal cup of tea when it comes to Lynch films. Although
Yeah, that's fair.
I
That's
still
fair.
like it.
Yeah, I mean, like the title suggests, it's very straight and it's very plain and it's very simple. It's just a dude, an old man, traveling from one place to another, affecting person after person in various positive ways, and him being sort of given back that positive energy that he's given to them. He's also receiving it, I guess. And I like the performances in here, like you said, Sissy Spacek, and also Harry Dean Stanton. He only has like
Mm-hmm.
3 lines
Oh,
at like the
it's,
very
yeah,
end, but it's like
literally.
it's like done so perfectly,
Exactly.
and like
It's a
it's got
fantastic
like the
ending for
just
it. Hmm.
perfect like subtlety and like correctness and just like it feels like truthful. It feels like real and
Yeah.
honest, and like playing off of Richard Farnsworth, which I've not really seen him in much else, to be honest.
Yeah.
But he's also like in that moment they just play off each other really really well. So I think it's a nice moment that bundles up the story in a really solid place. So I like it quite a bit. I'd say.
definitely decent.
Yeah.
But do you want to hit us with your number five then? 'Cause it seems like we're through the the dregs, and now we're getting to peak,
Yeah,
so
I
to
mean,
say.
like we were already talking about really good films, and now we're talking
We
about
were.
these are like bangers already, like from five
Mhm.
up. So at number five, I have The Elephant Man.
A little low for me, but close because from my number five, I have Lost Highway,
Hmm.
and then my number four, I have The Elephant Man.
Ah, okay, okay, okay.
So
That's not that big a
I
difference.
no, not at all. And The Elephant Man, it's good that we're talking this right after Straight Story because this is also an incredibly approachable film from David Lynch. I believe this was his sophomore,
Yes,
coming
sir.
after Eraserhead,
Yep.
and this is the one that kind of I feel like got people interested in him as a filmmaker and not just an artist. Where Eraserhead is very strange, and we'll get into that. Elephant Man is, still artistic. I love how it's shot. The black and white. It's very grimy. All the
Yeah.
fog in London is really cool,
Hmm.
and the all the you know all of the performances are great. All of the effects are great. It's just a really cohesive movie, and it's also much more of a straightforward narrative from Lynch, less kind of strange and abstract, and
Yeah.
much more of a traditional narrative from him.
Yeah. It's based upon real events, and then there's a lot
Hmm.
that's exaggerated. Like I think the person who like he worked with in like the circus type thing, he wasn't really like abusive. He was actually sort of nice. And then also they made up the part where there's like a worker at the hospital who kidnaps him and tries to make money off of him. But
Hmm.
like even with that stuff not really happening, like they serve those changes
Yeah.
serve to feed a better story or more
Hmm.
interesting story overall. And this film is very good. It's really unique, I think, because it's. I feel like it's trying to beyond just the black and white nature of it. I do feel like it's trying to emulate films from prior decades, maybe like from the
Hmm.
50s or something, just in terms of like acting and like where the camera's positioned and like the physicality of it. Just like I don't know, something about like the way that the characters are talking and behaving. It maybe the audio too, like the exact quality of it. I'm not really sure, but at least some of it reminded me of films that were much older than films that were releasing in 1980. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
so
I do
there's
agree.
probably stuff like that going on just to feed into the the idea that this was happening a long time ago, like in the
Yeah, it's a period piece in that way,
started
and
1900s. I don't know.
yeah, 19th century
Okay.
London to some extent.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think this is you know,
Oh, yeah, so
very blatantly in his bag of exploring themes of the beauty beyond deformity and kind of the heart that can be found in the midst of like ugliness and all of those standard David Lynch themes to explore, but with some really really great affecting performances from Hopkins and Hurt, and then all of the different kind of vignettes and hijinks that he gets up to as the Elephant Man are,
mm-hmm.
very affecting, great at, creating a really good narrative of kind of hopefulness, tragedy, and then an eventual kind of excellent conclusion, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, really cool one. Um, just impressive as a sophomore film. Like he really started
It feels like a very big
super
change.
impressive.
It feels
Yeah.
like a very, very big change just on a production level of
Hmm.
controlling that many more people and having all of a sudden crowded scenes and, the willingness to perhaps shoot things in a more naturalistic way while still also he's allowed to explore a little bit with like the moments of like his mother calling out to him and like random
Mm.
stuff. And there's like a part in
Yeah.
the hospital where there's like two women infected by some disease and like some super close up shots of them that's just like completely out of
Hmm.
nowhere and it feels like this is just David Lynch did it because he wanted to sort of
Yep.
thing. Is they're like yelling at each other and it's The film doesn't really benefit much from that, but it's, we receive it and we're there for it. But I do want to say one more thing about the historical inaccuracies is that it actually did impact the like real people involved in it, or
Oh,
like their
really? Yeah.
families. From
Hmm.
it was essentially like really bad press, and so like the dude who like the sort of circus person like
Hmm.
in real life, again they were like on good terms and shit, and like when the
Everyone was like, "How could you
scientists
do
could do
this to
no,
him?"
yeah, it was
Yeah.
literally that, or like the families or like descendants or whatever. So it did mess them up pretty badly. They could have like, I don't know, changed the names of the characters or something to like
Yeah.
not make it as obvious, because I think they changed the names of some characters but then they kept them for others. So like, I don't know, I feel like that was a bad step there, is like the only my main gripe with it is how it affected the people outside of the
Yeah.
film, because as an actual film there's not really too much for me at least to poke at.
Yeah.
um
That is a kind of sad. Um,
yeah.
Although it is kind of, it was surprising how popular this movie got. It
Hmm.
is still kind of in the cultural zeitgeist, in so much as like people remember the Elephant Man. It's a somewhat iconic story, and for a lot of people, it is David Lynch's retelling of it and adaptation of it that kind
Yeah.
of most people know.
Yeah.
It's at this point, the history of it is definitely colored by this film. So it's a little sad that it might have gotten people to act out on
Yeah.
inaccuracies, but that is at the
It's
end of
something
the
to
day
keep
a
in
problem
mind,
with
I
the
guess.
audience. Hmm.
So yeah, but it's a cool movie beyond that.
It
So that
is.
was my number five. My number four is Lost Highway, so we could talk about that also.
Yeah. Lost Highway for me just feels like the precursor to Mulholland Drive and everything that I think that movie is. I think this one is just it's a step below, and
Hmm.
I just always appreciate him for getting in this that trippy LA psychedelic weird noir style, very much akin to, like I said, Mulholland Drive, Inherent Vice, Under the Silver Lake, all of those, maybe even Chinatown.
Hmm.
But this one definitely weird, trippy, all of that, and with the more kind of obvious themes of doppelgangers and split personalities, kind of your subconscious becoming a character and kind of acting out in ways that you might not want to as your front facing self.
Hmm.
Just a really cool movie to dive into and immerse yourself in, and then just trying to kind of piece together. It's very kind of visual based and emotional based, where you aren't super sure as to what specifically the narrative is kind of leading you through. There's
Hmm.
not really a cohesive story as like an Elephant Man or a Straight Story, but there is still kind of a cohesive vision in this one that is more apparent than something like Inland Empire. So
Yes,
this is just a
which allows for
more
me to connect with this
polished,
one.
yeah.
Because it is absurd and out there, but
Hmm.
I think it's really cool, honestly. Like the exact subject matter is an interesting one to tackle, with
Hmm.
the protagonist not really being a good person for reasons,
Yeah.
and then to see like the switch up of him manifested in physical form, and then
Yeah.
like the sort of the entire world around him changes a little bit. Like he
Hmm.
literally becomes a different person,
Hmm.
And to me, I have like this weird positive take with it, where it's like if you are in a state where you're not satisfied with yourself, you can change yourself, and therefore the world around you will begin to change as well, and
Hmm.
you'll find different life opportunities to come up to you. That's not really the main thing going on with this film specifically. There's probably different films that explore that idea more closely or literally, right?
Hmm.
Um, but just because that's sort of what happens in this film, not necessarily for the better of him, but just the fact that he changes himself, right? If that's truly what happened, other than he became a whole different person, or like he was replaced by somebody else, and then he replaced his replacement again. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
it's just a weird film in terms of like what actually happened and the clarity of that and the main interpretation of what you said with his subconscious sort of coming to life and like uh going through with that is I you know it's almost like Mulholland Drive where he eventually goes beyond this, which I do agree. Like the things explored in this film, I think there's sort of superior versions of it explored in that film, um, which might indicate that it's because we haven't talked about it yet. It's probably higher than this one. Um, but what was I saying? It's different. What was I saying? Damn. Um, I put that shit on the screen. I'll fucking remember when I rewatch this video and be like, I can't believe I forgot that. Um, but it is a cool
But
movie and it's unique. Oh, it's a matter of like one reality over the other. You
mm,
know, like which is more truthful? Is he, you know, once he transforms, is this a more real place or is it a more fake place? Because you're meeting same people, different names, sort of.
mhm. Yep.
You know.
I think it depends on how you read it. For me, I definitely think that his uh, the character that you meet at the beginning, the protagonist, the sad jazz musician,
Yeah.
is a front. And as you kind of get into the movie and things start to take place, and you see versions of characters that feel like twisted versions of themselves, I think it's pretty clear at the end that the the protagonist's front, his face in the beginning, kind of the mask slips, and eventually you see what he was truly in, all along, but someone
Mm-hmm.
that he was trying to hide from and kind of bury in his subconscious, which slowly but surely will violently wrest itself into the open if, gone undealt with for long enough, which I think is kind of the overall narrative. If you had to put a strict kind of direction on it, although like we've already discussed, Lynch despises having those concrete interpretations of his films. I don't really honestly think even he has like a really concrete idea as to what it all means sometimes. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's why he
His
likes
cast
making
doesn't even
movies.
know
No.
super often.
And they each probably have their own interpretations,
Right.
and that's the whole beauty of it. There are obviously universal themes and elements that you can engage with and witness and kind of idealize about and interpret how you wish. But beyond that, it is really just maybe not a fun movie, but a valuable movie to
Mm-hmm.
kind of just engage with and interpret as you wish. It's very strange, fun, uh, and elements of his stuff that are seen in better lights in other movies of his. But still, this is a more polished kind of version of an Inland Empire story for me. And thus I have it definitely higher than some of his other stuff.
Yeah. It also there's parts of it that play into like his I forget if we've mentioned it or not, but like the his emphasis on like sort of evil can be anywhere and is just sort of like out in the open
Mm-hmm.
encountered in everyday life. Like in this film, the one creepy ass dude just approaches him
Yeah,
at the
the
party, like in front of
stranger.
everybody, and it's just like
Yeah,
so unsettling. And it's like, what the fuck is this really happening here
his
right
face is
now? You
just
know?
insane in this
No, no.
movie. And you just see him across the room at first, and you're like, wait, is he looking at me? And he's, yeah, definitely effective. Still, like, this is definitely more of a darker film from him. Lots of tense moments. All of the,
Yeah, this one
I really,
lacks. Does it lack like the more positive sort of ending that a lot of his other films
yeah,
sort of try to
this one
possess?
does seem a little more dour. It's hard to really see you know, the heartfelt core at the end of this. It feels much more of almost like I don't know, like a flatulent depiction of abuse in some sense, and so
Mhm.
there is not really meant to be a
Yeah.
celebration in this
Yeah.
one. It's more meant to be a stark kind of dark mirror as to, you know,
Yeah.
to interpret your own
Like a don't
actions
do
and
this.
how you feel about this. Yeah.
The
But
positivity is in finding, oh, it should be the opposite of this, and then I'll be
yeah,
successful or whatever.
the lessons that you take from it, and not necessarily the narrative of the story, which
Mm,
is a little
for sure.
depressing in this one, no doubt.
For sure. Do you have, is it your number four? I always forget.
It was my number 5, so, but it was your number 4, so,
Yeah.
and my number 4 was Elephant Man, so we go up to 3, which is Eraserhead for me. And I think we go to yours next, which,
I think we have the same top three, actually.
okay,
Do we
yeah,
want to, because for me, it's Eraserhead and then Blue Velvet.
Blue Velvet and then Mulholland Drive. Yep, yep. So
I
we can take this
think
as
the
it
first time we've
comes
got three in a row. Right.
for the top 3. Hey, it's, I guess, a similar taste when it comes to David Lynch films. But discussing Eraserhead as our number 3rd. What an insane debut. So
Absolute banger.
incredibly impressive, so singular, and the fact that it was as popular as it was is shocking. Coming out in 1977, I believe it got its, you know, big push in midnight theaters and screenings where, you know, it kind of found its audience and spread through word of mouth,
Hmm.
and got him, you know, eventually to have the rights to the Elephant Man and kind of blossom from there. But as a, you know, as a debut film, this feels incredibly polished, super clear in its vision, which I believe can be accredited to him making a ton of interesting short films and other art pieces as, you know, an artist beyond even just making films. But regardless, super cool, strange, weird, twisted, you know, exploration of fatherhood and weird themes of growing up and becoming a man and all of the, you know, anxieties and various nightmares that come with that territory.
Hmm.
Yeah, super twisted, still, like we said, has that core, has that element of, oh, my child is a fucked up, weird monster baby, but he's kind of cute. Like, he's like me. But yeah, a lot to like here. Curious to hear your take.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's very anxiety heavy, especially like, I mean, the main thing it does feel like it's about is parenting and the anxieties that go along with it. The baby itself by I think the mother-in-law is described as premature, and it's premature both in terms of the actual birth time and then also in their relationship. You know, like their uh, togetherness is not there yet, and them mentally as individuals, neither of them are ready for that sort of thing. Oddly though, for as dark and as uncomfortable as this film is, it's actually one of its funniest. I found myself laughing a good handful of times just by the absurdity of a lot of moments. There's like the one part where
Mm-hmm.
the father-in-law is like rambling about how he did all the plumbing in the fucking town and nobody gives a shit, and it's sort of like a mirror to the in-law parents are almost sort of like a glimpse onto what they might become in the future, where it's the idea of like middle-aged, you're taking care of both your kids and your parents, because we get the moment where the mother-in-law is fucking helping the her grandma who looks like she's essentially dead and is just not moving in a chair, and she like helps her cook stuff and is just like otherwise just sitting there doing nothing while the mom takes care of her. So it's sort of like that twisted sort of imagery of perhaps more of an American ideal. I don't know. It's probably worldwide, the idea of like the in the middle, you're taking care of both your parents and your kids. So that's an interesting thing there. And I just like this film a lot for its interpretability, for its weirdness, for its sort of the film title Eraserhead, we eventually see him literally have an eraser for a head. We see
Mm-hmm.
fucking images of pencils. You could start thinking of, well, what is a pencil? It could write, and then with the eraser side, it can erase.
Mm-hmm.
Well, people are sort of like that in that they can create and also erase. You know what I mean? In that form that human beings can create art, but then they can also create life. And then the pencil, well, what does it do? It can erase, but specifically, it can only erase the things that it makes.
Mm-hmm.
So in the sense of, comparing it to people, they could create babies, they could also destroy babies, and that's
Mm-hmm.
a fucked up thing to think about. But that's sort of what the lady in the radiator feels like.
Mm-hmm.
It's like almost his intrusive thoughts of like, what if I just fucking get rid of this thing? As she's like happily squashing on things that
The others,
resemble
yeah.
the
Mm-hmm.
weird alien gremlin baby thing. So there's weird stuff going on with that, and then there's the whole like shadowy otherworldly being thing, like pulling the switch
Mm-hmm.
back and forth, which feels like the a mentality of like, oh, the baby is possessed by like a fucking demon or something. And it's the demon controlling these switches and the baby making it all act strange and look very weird and also sort of funny. It reminds me of like a Vine Sauce meme thing where he has like this character called Meat, and it just looks like the fucking Eraserhead baby. So it sort of makes me giggle just seeing it in this movie, but it also is disturbing, and uh, I'm sure a lot of young parents or anybody who went through that phase can relate heavily to the it's crying and I don't know why
Mm-hmm.
sort of mentality of stuff. And like when he's trying to leave, and he just keeps crying whenever he approaches the door, and he sits down and he's asleep again, and then he gets up and he just turns away for a second, and it's like all disease ridden. It was like fine 2 seconds ago, and then
Yeah.
it's like all fucked up on the verge of death and stuff, and it's like, oh fuck.
It's like, oh my God.
So it's just like anxiety after anxiety of parenthood from the where your mind can go, and the actual intrusive thoughts. There's like that meme. It's like a not rage comic, but like adjacent to that, where it's like a dude holding a baby and he thinks of throwing it at a brick wall, but then he like thinks, oh, that's so fucked up, and then there's like a bunch of layers beyond that of like
Yeah.
intrusive thought after intrusive thought of like doing it or not doing it. You know what I mean? Like that's what
Mm-hmm.
this film is. It's just a bunch of like anxiety from sprung from the mind into real physical form. So I think it's really cool, and again for a first feature, it makes a lot of sense with the somewhat smaller cast and
Mm-hmm.
the only a couple of sets, and the slightly shorter length, and also the black and white thing. It's a lot of it's a I don't know. It's a more easily artistic, approachable.
Yeah.
It stands the
Because
whole black and white nature of it.
there's so many great effects, and I don't know how they would have shown up if it wasn't black and white. But regardless, all of the set design, the kind of expressionist nature of a lot of the models and the different prosthetics that are used, and the various different kind of
Hmm.
like I remember the dinner scene and all of the weird shit going on with like the
Yeah,
food
like their
there.
meat that they're like sucking or eating at or
Yeah,
whatever, and it looks disgusting. Yeah,
yeah, and it's just all it fits into this strange kind of dystopian industrialized
yeah.
world that is created with all like
It's
pipes
just
and,
super
and
dirty.
steam
Yeah,
and
yeah.
cloudy, dirty, nasty, polluted, and then yeah, trying to bring a
Life
life
into
into
that
this
world.
it is definitely a bit of a scary thing.
Hmm.
But yeah, definitely such an impressive first film from him.
Yeah,
And in some ways, I think it is like his most coherently depicted David Lynch film.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
I think it's really interesting to look at this coming back to, because I watched this after watching Twin Peaks,
Oh,
and
really?
I ended up watching The Return before watching Eraserhead somehow.
Hmm.
But The Return being one of the most recent things he ever worked on before he died, and then Eraserhead being his first. There are like very distinct bookends on both of these pieces of art that I think are really interesting to tie itself across his entire filmography. where I like that everything in the radiator and that kind of set very reminiscent of a lot of the things that come in The Return and the
Twin
different,
Peaks in general,
the
because you get
fire.
like the stage
Yes,
or like the Red Room or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah, and the Fireman's Lodge and all of the different weird
The Black
extra
Lodge.
worldly shit like that. But yeah, definitely cool. Just yeah, what else is there to say?
There's actually literally only one more thing to say about it, and it's that the elevators reminded me of Cyberpunk 2077 because it just fucking
In
took
the way
forever.
that
Like
you
got in
click
them
on
and you
it,
started
like
pushing
what
the
the
button,
hell?
and then they didn't do anything,
Nothing
and
works.
so we just had to
Damn.
stand there until the buttons worked. And so
Yeah.
I was like, it's just
Cyberpunk
like this video game I
obviously
played
they
and talked about
Cyberpunk they
extensively.
love good shit. They obviously are
Bro,
referencing
Cyberpunk
Eraserhead.
2077 is Lynchian. It's got David
It's
Lynch
really like a
elevators,
cyberpunk dystopia. The all of the pipes and shit. It
bro,
really
and
is
the
just
fact that the
super
city is
high
so
tech
dirty and
shit.
like
Yeah.
why is the main character not having a kid? They probably
Hmm.
watched Eraserhead and they were like, nope, I'm
Exactly.
out of there
I'd rather
type
be
shit.
cyber psycho than do this shit.
I'd rather be a fucking what's the fucking main evil organization? I'd rather be a
An
puppet for
Arasaka puppet, yeah,
Arasaka.
than
Damn.
have to have a child, which real,
Yeah, I mean
real.
if it's the fucking Eraserhead meat baby thing, then I guess. I guess.
Just
Um,
toss it at a wall or something.
brick
But
brick wall at you. Yeah, so that was that film. It's really cool. And next we got Blue Velvet, which is another really really good film by him. I would say.
hmm
It also explores themes we've mentioned that he's explored in other films with like the whole suburbia aspect of
hmm
like an underlying just weird shit going down. And it's about like the a youthful sort of desire to discover that and sort of take
hmm
the approach firsthand onto that through
yeah, this is
the
just it's
initial
a coming of
discovery.
age. It's a coming of age movie. That's
Essentially,
all it is.
essentially,
But it is a David Lynch
it's
coming
his
of age
version of
story.
it, so it's going to
So
be very weird and unique.
yes, this one came right after Dune, I believe, and so I feel like this is him kind of bucking up
Returning to form
against yeah, a return to form, trying to
and
kind
evolving.
of make one for them and one for me. And this one definitely feels like sort of a foundational text in that way of setting up a lot of themes that we see explored in all of his other films. And yeah, great performances across the board. Kyle MacLachlan is really good as a sort of well-intentioned but kind of
Realistically, morally, not always
yeah,
correct.
yeah, like someone who's kind of drawn to the darkness in an attempt to, gather his own interpretation of what the darkness is. And yeah, it's obviously, as far as the narrative goes, it is still weird. It's maybe not as disjointed as something like a Lost Highway, Inland Empire, Mulholland Drive, but this is still a strange narrative, and especially after the first act, everything gets even stranger from there, and maybe a little harder to follow. But yeah, I think it's just one of his most coherent movies in some weird way. Less polished than like a Mulholland Drive, or I think even a Lost Highway. I think those are more polished movies.
Okay.
But this one is more raw, more genuine, and more transparent about the themes it's going for, what it wants you to get out of it, how these kind of weird characters and their strange decisions make you feel and kind of put you in the mindset of the protagonist in a very successful way, I think.
Yeah. Just to mention it, Dennis Hopper is like it's such a unique character,
Yes.
and like he's very unhinged and creepy for how wild and unpredictable he is, like from the very beginning, and then like it's a very solid introduction to him, just establishing
Mhm.
look how weird he is, and also look how intense and crazy he
Hmm.
also is. And like the weird thing about like him being casted for this film is Dennis Hopper was like, Frank is me, and it's like I hope not. I hope there's at least a difference or two from you and this person. I get what he means though. He could
Yes.
embody that energy or whatever. And just like the weird fucking like when he goes to the dude's house and it's like a bunch of fat ladies there and they start
Hmm.
singing a colorful clown fucking Sandman. Like it's very weird and like again like there's parts of this film that are almost sort of funny, not as funny as Eraserhead at all. But like again, just very out there um, things happening. And like you said, it is a coming of age story for sure, and it just sort of um, like his youth is almost disappearing as the
Hmm.
film goes on, or is like his innocence with it in a way by just discovering these things and taking part of it directly himself. And yeah, again, it's got like a similar sort of positive ending, like very positive, and there's like a fucking uh, fake bird that shows up that David Lynch
Hmm.
is like that was a real robin. No, it wasn't. I have eyes. Don't lie to me. Don't lie to me about that. Um,
Yeah. I feel like this one has obviously similar themes to an Eraserhead, but in so that it's like it's a coming of age, it's a maturation, but in the course of maturing and coming into your own, you have to lose something. You have to
yeah,
lose that sense of innocence, that
yeah,
childlike wonder, and instead you kind of are scarred to some extent and forced to reckon with the fact that the world is not always a nice place. There's darkness that you have to be aware of, and you know, if you're going to really grow up, it's important to reckon with that and to deal with it in healthy and productive ways, which, you know, in this movie you very much see what the opposite looks like. And so you kind of take the lessons there and then try and, you know, inform your decisions as you leave the
yeah.
velvet curtain, so
The
to
Lost Highway
speak.
dude should have taken notes from this film because
Yes,
he
yeah,
just he
but
just tried to
unfortunately
skip
he was
that
too
by
old.
creating a whole new personality of like him being way more
Yeah,
mature.
yeah, he was too old. He couldn't teach a new old dog new tricks
Bro.
like a young Kyle MacLachlan like that.
Mm. There's nothing quite like a good young Kyle MacLachlan.
No, David Lynch, big fan of this man, and you
Yes,
know,
sir.
it's kind of a shame that he hasn't had a ton of like big roles outside of Lynch's
Yeah.
stuff. But yeah, I think he is really honestly perfect as a protagonist for a lot of Lynch's stuff. I
Hmm.
still think Dale Cooper's, you know, one of my favorite characters, period. And he's excellent in this one too, even though he doesn't have a ton to work off of. It's mostly him reacting to wilder performances. But
Yeah. He's
still,
still a necessary type of role, though.
absolutely,
That's
yeah.
sort of the point. Um, but yeah, awesome
And
film. Moving on to our number one, United, which is of course Mulholland Drive. It's probably consistently most people's number ones, or at least it's
mhm.
higher up there. I think it shares a 4.3 rating with The Elephant Man, so maybe some people would put that on the higher end also. But just looking at
I think
the
this is the most
stat
popular.
distributions,
Hmm.
yeah, just looking at the stat distributions, there's more tens for Mulholland Drive, like proportionately. You see
Mm.
what you know what I
But
mean?
that could just be because there's more ratings for Mulholland Drive
Well,
since it
but
is
I'm
his
saying
most popular.
proportionately, bro.
Oh,
There
okay.
are more ratings, I think, overall for Mulholland Drive. But like if you look at the stat distributions, you can see there's more eights. Like if you look at the fucking the
Okay, okay.
tallies on the stats, bro. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, this one, like we've already kind of been alluding to throughout the episode,
This is his
this
magnum
is
opus.
it is his magnum opus. It's his most polished. It's not super accessible, which, you know, I think the scale of accessibility for David Lynch films doesn't necessarily lead to its quality. But this one is, you know, that classic exploration of LA and the seedy underbelly to Hollywood and the weird kind of fucked up exploitation of show business, and then also all of the, you know, psychoanalysis of the subconscious and doppelgangers and trying to become someone else, trying to embody your goals and
Yeah.
falling
Like
in love
multiple
with the person that you
realities
might
being
be.
shown.
And yeah, it's a ton of really interesting abstract ideas that are depicted visually and narratively in such a unique way. Everything is so like clean and tense and strange, and you're kind of brought along the journey with it through a very kind of probably the most personable protagonist in Naomi Watts out of any of his films. Where
Hmm.
it's like, yeah, a struggling actress who is kind of losing her memory. But where the memory is not hers, it's the other actress, and
Yeah.
it's very strange. But the mystery of it is definitely informed by the structure of the movie, and as you get more and more pieces slowly kind of, it's not even clicking together, it's more that you get more pieces to just interpret the puzzle however you
Maybe
wish.
this piece could go here, or it could be this piece instead.
Yeah, it's a very kind of strange watching experience. I think this was my first David Lynch movie that I've watched,
It might have
and
been mine also,
it was definitely,
if not
yeah,
Eraserhead.
it caught me off guard without a doubt because there was no concrete answers as much as anything I'd ever watched. Like it was very much a strange. Oh, do I need to look something up on YouTube? Like, did I miss something? Like, what is actually happening here?
Mulholland Drive
And
explained.
then, yeah, and then you slowly uncover the idiosyncrasies of David Lynch and his ideas about what art is and what to get out of it and how to interpret it, and if there is such thing as a proper way of looking at films, art in general. And then,
Hmm.
you take those lessons as your first David Lynch film, and you take that with you forever. I think it's such an interesting and important movie to me, in such that it taught me a lot about how to engage with media that is not upfront, is not coherent or concrete, but still there's so much you can get out of something like that, beyond just getting answers.
Yeah. So for me, I want to compare it to a very different thing, but just in terms of similar takeaways. Like when I was younger, I played this game called Xenoblade Chronicles,
Mm,
and it was sort of like an opening up of, oh, this is what video games can be capable of. You know, they could be vast and very large. They could have plot lines that stem from between dozens of hours of gameplay. They could have these big worlds with, at the time for me at that age, intricate combat systems, and just like a lot of depth going on there. And that was sort of how this film was to me. Like just seeing it for the first time, it was such like a whoa. This is what movies can be. You know,
mhm,
movies can just be completely, absolutely crazy like this. And
mhm.
like initially on into my first viewing with it, I wasn't really sold completely on some of the things that were happening, or at least some of the ways that they were happening. Because I was like, is the acting good? Is the acting bad? Like, what's going on? Like, it just
Yeah.
was super
Hmm.
atypical on just like a standard level and how the actors were going about with their lines and stuff and the deliveries and like the a lot of times very long pauses. Um, but by the time you get to Naomi Watts doing her like fucking audition, um,
Hmm.
like where she's doing a character, playing a character to get the audition, that's when I was sold. I'm like, oh shit, this is really someone really crazy is happening
Yes.
here.
Hmm.
You know
Hmm.
what I mean? And it's basically essentially all the good things that we've said about his other films. This is what this film embodies quite heavily. Like it's dark and weird and wild and sort of crazy, but it's also pretty damn funny. Like there's the most of the scenes with Justin Theroux where he's like
Yeah.
angry at like the studio execs, and it feels like a criticism of Hollywood this one more so than even the other ones that might try to be
Hmm.
getting at that with Lost Highway with the sort of adult film industry angle and the uh, Inland Empire also with films, but this more so
Hmm.
in a more direct and for me look more likable way where you get the behind the scenes of one producer says this person has to be
Yeah.
this
Yep.
way probably because other certain things have been happening behind the scenes and the director doesn't want it. It's probably something that maybe not David Lynch directly went through that exact version of it, but he definitely fought against producers
Hmm.
we know in for Dune. So I'd like to think that at least some real things going on. Again, not the exact same things, but some similar things where it's creative people or a creative person and a business person butting heads over these types of things, and he's taking his golf club and is this so and so's car, and then he starts fucking smashing it or whatever, and then him going to his wife and getting paint all over him as like his wife's cheating on him, and the fucking dude beats his ass. He's like a pool cleaner or something, and just like it's oddly funny uh, at moments for how uh, strange it is, you know.
Hmm.
And the main duo here for most of the film, it's like it sort of got the romance angle, which is really solid when it is happening, and then again the twist upon it where it's like it's like a 2.5 hour film roughly. So like the main 2 hours, there's like that stuff going on, and then the last 30 minutes is where there's that very radical shift, almost as if we've been seeing a fictional reality this whole time. As if you think the last 30 minutes is the main one, or how do you take that one way or the other, or differently altogether?
It's hard to say. I think this is a movie that I have to rewatch. Honestly, it's been a while since I've watched it again, so my interpretation would probably change when I watch it. I remember thinking that I don't even remember necessarily about what my interpretation of this film
Mm-hmm.
is necessarily, but I just remember the the scenes, the different moments, how it made me feel, the performances, and the overall kind of themes that it made me wrestle with. Um, I remember the very beginning. That special shout out to that one that like the worst jump scare in any
Bro, he
movie,
couldn't.
but
It was the worst
he
jump
just
scare because it was so
explains.
like it's so long,
It's
and it's
so
so like when it
long.
happens,
It's
it's like
so
oh
drawn
Jesus
up.
fucking Christ, and
Yeah,
yeah, it's so drawn out, and
the
it's
sound
also like
design is all
it
perfectly paced.
yes, but
It
like
is fucked up.
the dude could have taken several strides physically to prevent that from
Make it
happening.
not as
Like
bad.
he
Yeah.
literally approaches the wall from the fucking corner to get jump scared.
Yep.
It's like bro, you go 10 feet around it the other way, and then the person's very far away and it's not as scary. Like Jesus fucking Christ. When I was watching this like the whole time, it's like a fucking
I
like
know.
minute or
I
two
know.
of him just like walking up to the like
Because
dumpster.
it's
And so I
down the
had to like minimize
stairs.
it and like
He
sit
keeps
back and
looking
be
back at
like,
his friend. He's
oh
like,
my fucking
"Do I
God.
do I look?" He's like, "Bro, this is your dream that you had, and I get that you said it was a scary dream, but just look at it."
Yeah.
Yeah,
But it
it's
plays
such a
into that
good.
also that the aspect of like evil can lurk anywhere, where it's
Mhm.
just like a public place, a perfectly ordinary
Bright
day
daylight.
happening. Yeah, and just
It's
like the
not
creepiest
obscured
shit
at
going
all.
on.
Yeah, it's honestly the whole that opening of him just having that monologue, just explaining the dream. You're like, what's going on here?
Some shit
And then
is
it just
happening.
leads up to that, cuts immediately, and now you're on to the rest of the movie.
Hmm.
And it's a lot of there's so many interesting kind of genre elements to this movie where in that way I feel like it's the most polished, where he's able to do so many different things and kind of lane switch very seamlessly,
Yeah.
super well executed. Everything serves the wider purpose of building this weird tripped out
Yeah.
world. where there is a lot of humor elements to the casting and the sort of Illuminati element to the show business behind
Yeah,
Hollywood.
them like phoning the fucking dude who I think is in Twin
Yeah,
Peaks, like the
the
super
cowboy. Yeah,
dude, bro.
what's
The
his
cowboy's
the actual
hilarious.
guy?
Where he drives all the way fucking out there just to receive some message about you
Yeah.
must cast this person, and it's like if you see me one more time, you did a good job. If you see me two more times, you did a bad job. And he only sees him one more time, but we, as the audience, we see him two
End up seeing
times
him.
because he's at the very end of the film. So it's
Yeah.
like, did we fuck up by
Is there a
watching this?
meta narration here
Are we
where,
the evil
as the
doers all
audience?
along, David?
Yeah. And then there's all of the, what's the club? The blue, what's it called? But yeah, similar, obviously, themes that are explored. It's through, Twin Peaks and the Black Lodge and everything behind the curtain,
Right,
and
right,
that
yeah.
sort of that the it's like a barrier between dream and reality, and it's in those locations that you're able to kind of alter reality in the greatest ways, which I think is clear as his sort of exploration of the themes that we talked about earlier, about how if you are able to sort of come to terms or reconcile or maybe even subvert your own internality, that will in turn affect the world around you, and very obviously distinct and abstract ways in a Lynch film, but the themes are still obviously universal, and just the way that he writes and crafts a story around them is one of my favorite things about him. I've been mentioning music throughout, and I think in general he just always has a great ear. I think he's always very invested in the soundtracks that he's a part of, or he'll work with people that he really likes. I know he has a ton of collaborations with Angelo Badalamenti, who has the very iconic Twin Peaks themes, and then has scored various of his other stuff, and other movies. But yeah, just something to mention as we kind of close this video out.
Yeah.
There's really so much to appreciate about this guy. A real artist with great taste and genuine taste-making capabilities, where he's able to use his appreciation for art and transform it into really affecting works of art that stand the test of time and are really worth kind of endeavoring and experiencing for yourself.
If you haven't already, you should probably look at these. I mean, we didn't really spoil too much from too many of them, sort of. I mean, we did a little bit.
It's really
here and
hard
there.
to
But it's it also
directly
it doesn't matter
spoil
that
some
much
of his movies.
because
Yeah.
most of the experience is like how it happens, not necessarily what
Yeah.
for his stuff,
And
even more so than other films. But I would just like to say one more thing about Mulholland Drive, is that it was like a TV plot or pilot originally, and so it's like I tried looking at it, and there was like a shitty VHS copy that somebody uploaded, and like the audio was fucking terrible. I could like barely hear it, and I was just sort of scrubbing through it to see what scenes were different. I don't even know if you remember from it. It's literally only one scene, but it's like after Laura Herring was in like the car accident, there's like detectives investigating it, and like in the show there's an additional scene with them like with the evidence bag and like talking about it in like a fucking office, and like theoretically that would lead to them investigating further, like if this story was supposed
having
to be a
another
TV
plot
show,
line.
and then there would be
Yeah.
like like a plot line of the cops trying to figure things out, and
Dale
like
Cooper shows up.
oh shit, that would be the
Special agent.
crossover of the century, bro. That would be awesome. That would be truly the fucking alternate realities cross worlds. That'd be so fucking sick.
Exactly. Where's the
Twin Peaks
David Lynch
bro.
multiverse? What the
Ah,
fuck? Where? Why do we never
it could
get
have been
this?
so cool. Oh my god.
Yeah.
No, yeah. But like, I mean, you could. I don't know why it was included in the film version of it, because it's literally only one scene, and I don't think it went anywhere. Because again, it's just the cops. They're like, look, it just shows that the cops are looking into it, but then they don't do anything beyond that. So it's
No.
just sort of like, why does that exist? That scene.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it did serve something, and I just couldn't find it. Maybe somebody could find a purpose with it, because everybody's gonna
Hmm.
have different takes with his sort of stuff. So
Absolutely. David Lynch, sometimes he just films shit.
he could do whatever
Obviously,
the fuck
we
he
we
wants. He
talked
could he
about it
could
with
include
Inland
a random
Empire.
scene about like nothing at
Yeah.
all related to the film, and we could still be like,
I'm
how did
just
that
gonna make
connect?
this into art,
Wait a minute.
and that is something to definitely a key lesson to take away. Maybe if you're an aspiring filmmaker, is not everything has to be directly planned out and plotted
Mhm.
out. There definitely seems to be a lot of improvisation to some extent when it comes to his filmmaking, and maybe not necessarily like a Terrence Malick in such that where his camera is that sort of improvisational tool, but instead it feels like it's through his edit and through the combination of plot elements and how he weaves the story that it becomes more of a cohesive piece of art that you can watch in theaters or experience however you want, really.
Mhm. His films are awesome. They're widely interpretable, and even though we shared the top three, there's probably still a lot of room for people to have their own as their favorite. Sort of like a lot of directors, or the two previous directors we've talked through, where they have a good, very solid selection and repertoire of films, and he's definitely one of those. Again, probably the only one that could realistically be near the bottom every time would be Dune. But I could also
Hmm.
see like it has such a cult status. I could see some people
Yeah, absolutely.
preferring
Really
that even
loving
like
it.
above
Hmm.
all of his other stuff.
Yeah, it probably holds a lot of nostalgic power as well for a lot of
Sure.
people.
Yeah.
So hard to say,
Yeah.
but
Before we close
um,
out, I want to
hmm
sort of blast through some of his short films that I saw. I only saw like six of them. He has so many for some reason.
he
It was just
does.
I say for some reason short films I'm sure are nice from a filmmaker's perspective because they're a lot more laid back and you could tackle a very specific idea with
Hmm.
not as much tribulation of outside influence and maybe only getting one or a couple key actors to do a specific scene or two for a
Hmm.
limited time, or even none at all. Like some of his earlier films are literally just like the paintings and like or like artwork moving around that I think he all did himself except for maybe an exception or two.
Hmm.
But anyways, I saw some of his short films. So just going through them in order in which I saw them, there was What Did Jack Do, which is like David Lynch is playing like a detective, interviewing a monkey that sees some sort of crime that happened, and it's like it's essentially a David Lynch shit post. Like it's sort of funny, but it's also sort of stupid. Like just David Lynch being like, "I heard you talking to chickens. Is that true?" And then the fucking monkey has like the I saw either a YouTube comment or one of the letterbox reviews compared it to Annoying Orange, where it's like the fucking mouth of the monkey moves like a human mouth while it's being filmed, and it's got like this really weird, sort of like an old man trying to do a. It might be just David Lynch himself doing a voice. I have no idea, but it just sounds like an old dude doing like a I'm talking like this voice or something. So it's like eventually it becomes funny after like 5 minutes, and then it just stops being funny, and it's like, oh, okay, it's still going for some reason. So it's like it's a thing. It's unique and it's weird, and if you like him, you'll probably at least maybe get something out of it. It's not my favorite though from his stuff, because one of the other ones I saw was the grandmother, and this is like maybe his second or it's very early on into his short film stuff, and it's this super duper feels like if a painter made a film with
Hmm.
actors. This would be it. Like it's super artistic, and there's actors, but they're not really voicing lines. It's about like a kid who's like people procreate through the earth. They like bury themselves and then they hug. and then just the dude is sprouted and becomes a 10-year-old kid immediately, and then he sort of has a grandmother who's like stuck in a tree, and then like his he pisses in the bed, and the bed piss looks like egg yolks, and the dad is like abusive to him, and then he like fucks his grandma or something. Like it's weird stuff going on
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
in this film, and it's unique and interesting. It's sort of tackling perhaps sort of similar to a Razorhead, just like strange, dark family stuff, and it's sort of like the only, because both of his parents kind of suck, and then his grandma he gets along with, so it's like the only light in his life is a fleeting one, where she's on the sort of the verge of um, not living for very long. So it's a very interesting, unique film. There, all the actors are in like completely white uh, makeup, just sort of a
Makeup.
very
Mm-hmm.
interesting choice. And a lot of his films, including a lot of his early short films, including this one, they got like either his paintings or like some sort of like paper stop motion stuff, just to like almost like to loosely compare it to Monty Python and the Holy Grail, those sort of animated segments. It's
Mm-hmm.
vaguely sort of like that, just to compare it to something there. So you get some of that, and those things are very interesting. So it's a very unique, short little thingy there. There's also Rabbits, which he remade segments of it for Inland Empire. And like I said, it's sort of about like a family of rabbits having some sort of family trauma stuff, where they're all going through, they like have gone through different acceptance phases of some sort of event that happened between them, but they came about it through different methods, and it's just weird, and it's really slow. There's just like, I mean, it's sort of like in the parts of it that are in Inland Empire, where it's just like the rabbit standing there for 30 seconds and the audience is clapping. It happens like three fucking times in this 40-minute thing, and it's like, I don't know, it's sort of funny, I guess, and it's weird and unique and interesting, and all those other nice words that his films embody. But it's definitely not my favorite. It's one of his longer short films, and I feel like in that time, I just get way less out of it compared to other ones from him that are shorter. Um, one of those being The Alphabet, which is the complete opposite of the spectrum. It's only 4 minutes, and there's a lot of shit packed into this. It's maybe his creepiest and like most unsettling. It's just about like a woman reciting the alphabet, sort of, but that only happens at like the very last minute. Before that, there's still alphabet shit happening, but it's like kids reciting ABC repeated, like in repetition, and then she sort of tries to start from like the middle of the alphabet and do some shit with that, and it's sort of like the grandmother. It's doing that. I don't know exactly what sort of art thing is going on, but it
Mm-hmm.
feels like that stop motion paper stuff, and with like real acting, and it's weird, unsettling sort of footage there just throughout. So it's a very unique, and as far as like actual time you spend watching it versus how much you get out of it, like it's just infinitely so much more than
Mm-hmm. The
Rabbits.
rabbits or
So
anything.
just to
Yeah.
compare it to that. Oh, one other thing I forgot to mention about Rabbits, it's like 42 fucking minutes long, and at the 41-minute part, there's like this scream. There's like the stock scream effect that's in a bunch of YTPs. So
Mm-hmm.
I started fucking dying because I was going crazy watching that shit, and then out of nowhere, there's just like a YTP. There's just a YouTube poop sound effect. So I'm like, holy shit, this is the greatest fucking thing I've ever heard.
David Lynch knows peak. I
Bro,
don't know what you want me to say.
he was so ahead of his time. Are you
He
joking?
really
Like,
was.
that sound effect is so old. I didn't even think about it until just now. Like, holy shit.
Yep.
So that was
He's a
interesting.
real ball knower.
Oh my fucking god, yeah. 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 The other one, I have two more. The David Lynch cooks quinoa, like the title suggests. It's almost like a YouTube video. I mean, it's the equivalent of a blog, which he like sort of did. He ran a YouTube channel, or
Mm-hmm.
had like, it was on like Facebook
It's
or
like the weather report,
Instagram or Twitter.
some
Yeah,
sort.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Where he would just do like daily uploads of updates of like small things he would do, like I'm fixing the receiver on this fucking device, like whatever he would do. So this is cooking quinoa and going over, I like this pot because it's got a copper lining and it's very heavy, or like whatever. So it's nice to hear him go through that, and then he waits for it to cook, and he's like telling a sort of like an old story about like a friend of his meeting another person on the train, and then she's never had Coca-Cola, and so he's like, "I will give you a Coca-Cola when we get there," and it's just like a nice, sort of relaxing, interesting uh, time here overall, and it's a great peek at the main figure behind all of these films that we're talking about. So it's a very interesting one for sure. And then the last one I saw was actually his first one, which is called Six Men Getting Sick. And this is literally like he built a couple of sculptures and then just painted on a background, just fucking six men throwing up. And it's sort of like uh, bloody and weird and just like kind of gross. And it says 4 minutes on Letterboxd, and one of the versions of it that I did see was technically 4 minutes, but it's really like a minute or like a minute and a half looped over
Just
and over
looped.
again for some reason. So yeah, but it was interesting. I guess it was unique and definitely like the artistic angle of things. Not a filmmaker, but a painter, yet still an artist. Even in his very first work there. But you know, out of those films I'd seen, I'd probably recommend The Alphabet and David Lynch Cooks Quinoa the most. Very polar ends of full blown artistic versus like a literal grounded, like, let me stare at this man and listen to his words sort of thing. So he's got plenty of other short films. Maybe someday I'll check them out. I don't know, but there's a lot.
It feels like if there is eventually some Criterion collection
that just has all of them
compilation
on it. Yeah, why
of
not?
all of
Binge
his
them all.
important,
Yeah,
because the problem is finding them for a lot of them.
No, I was gonna say, because literally, like, out of all those I just talked about, What Did Jack Do? It's on Netflix because it was made for Netflix or whatever.
It, yeah.
Literally every single other one I had to go through some like fucking Russian website or some shit. I was gonna get like install Protogen on my computer or some bogus to like get the fucking watch the grandmother. Like, bro, I'm just trying to get a little bit of a glimpse into this man and like his old stuff. So yeah, they should definitely make those more widely available. And I feel like it would be. He has enough things. He has enough short films that would add up to feature
collection
length or
of some
like
sort,
beyond that, you know. So yeah, I think there's definitely room for that. So let's go, Criterion. Get on that. Get the right, or whoever, do that.
Yeah, they're the only ones who can.
Bro, I know if nobody else got my back, Criterion does. Hell yeah.
Shout out. Just like David Lynch would have loved.
Yep. And right now you're seeing just again our rankings here, our top tens. We share the top 3 spots. Everything else is fairly similar with only a minor standout or two. But overall, probably like the median of like all these things, like the disparity, if you were to like graph it between your ranking versus mine, it's probably not that big of a difference compared to like other pairs of people randomly shuffling his films. There's probably a lot of stuff going on, which is perhaps the takeaway to be said about our director rankings in general slightly, but I don't know, maybe more so for this. I have no idea. I'm not keeping track of all that shit, but I do find it interesting. But yeah, any last words? We sort of mostly closed out David Lynch, or you did at least, for wrapping up thoughts and stuff.
Just one of my favorite directors, really, for his unique style, his sense of authenticity, his artistic vision, all of that just really makes me love his stuff more and more, even as I get older and find more ways to interpret it and to experience his art. It's really something that I think is timeless and will always be a vehicle to explore interesting aspects of my own self through a very unique sort of visual and, you know, artistic style. So love this guy.
Yep.
Miss him, But glad that we get to experience his movies, whenever you want, really.
Oh, yeah. I love it when films or even media in general can tackle uh, a wide range of different emotions, and a lot of his stuff can be dark and weird, but also optimistic and uplifting, and also funny, and also sad.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that shows that the figurehead or figureheads behind those projects is really genuine and really
Yeah.
understands life and really understands art as a whole, and bringing those ideas to life and helping guide people through that. So, like you said, I love this dude also, and I miss him.
Mm-hmm.
That what last year that affected me a great deal, as I'm sure it did
Yeah.
many
It
other
was a
people.
pretty
So
one of
it was
the
sad to see go down.
one of the
So
sadder celebrity deaths that I've personally experienced, I
because he's
think.
such a genuine dude. It just watch his interviews and shit. He is so
Such a
funny.
weird guy.
Yeah. Oh my
Definitely a
goodness.
freak to some extent, but man, is he like genuine,
He kept like the
like
same hairdo his whole
kind.
life.
Yeah,
That's
like
awesome.
he loves working with the same actors and actresses. Has
Hmm.
like great relationship with them. Just seems like a genuinely fun person to be around and
Yeah.
to make art with. So understandable that he had so many positive experiences with other folk in Hollywood outside of the system, so to speak.
No, yeah, for sure. So it was nice to revisit these films for me, and it was nice to talk about them with my good friend Peter. And it will probably be good to talk about some other stuff that this man specifically has done in the form of Twin Peaks, the TV show, which I don't know if we'll get to that even this year, maybe like the end of it or start of next year. I have no idea.
Yeah.
We don't upload super often, but it
Mm-mm.
is something we're interested in doing. So if you're interested in that or seeing other things that we do, which is also talking about various media stuff, make sure to like and subscribe and comment and do all those things and ring the bell and fucking do whatever the other term is to promote it. Fucking give us gems, give us fucking diamonds, give us gold, give us Reddit gold, give us Patreon money that we don't have one of those, but do it anyways. It's what David would have wanted. So, anyways, Silencio and whatnot.